This is Brent Richardson, and welcome to the Business Minutia Podcast, where our focus is on the details of business that are often passed over by traditional classes and leadership training. We focus on the stories of real people who have tried, failed, and learned through their experiences and are willing to share their lessons with others. So, Jamie, we put some content out there on social media, just kind of messing around. We play around on whiteboards quite a bit when we're brainstorming. We put this concept out there of a bad coworker series and listed some goofy bad coworkers. And I was really surprised at the social media interaction. Everybody jumped on it.
Yeah, I thought we'd made a pretty good list. And then we got the feedback. It looked like, oh, yeah. Oh, we left that one out. We left that one out.
I think everybody could relate to bad coworkers pretty immediately. It was something that connected right away. And
right.
then we realized, well, this might be something that'd be worth spending some time on. And that was certainly the feedback that we'd gotten. So we wanted to start off. This is the first in the series that we'll do. I really don't know how many. It's really, when we get to a point, we go, that's probably enough. And we'll scatter these out over the next few weeks and share with you guys a little bit on how we would recommend dealing with some difficult people, really what it comes down to.
And what are the 5 we're covering today?
So today we are going to talk about the triplets, Lazy Lisa, Help Me Hannah, and Cunning Cate. And then we're going to talk about Chatty Chad, or Coffee Carl, or we heard multiple versions of the same thing.
Same guy.
It's the guy that won't get out of your office. And then we're going to talk about my favorite, which we have a really good cameo appearance from my friend Wesley Hirsch to talk with us about Loud Larry or Speakerphone Steve or Loud Louise or Loud Louis.
Absolutely. I think this is going to be a good one.
It's going to be great.
So we're going to talk about the triplets. The triplets are Lazy Lisa, Help Me Hannah, and Cunning Cate. And the reason we call them the triplets is because they are so difficult to tell apart. They kind of have the same characteristic.
So who is Help Me Hannah?
Help Me Hannah is usually probably the new kid on the block, the new hire, but not always. Sometimes they're just they come into your office and ask for help all the time on things that they probably ought to know how to do because I know how to do it, so why don't you know how to do it?
And what's the difference between that and Lazy Lisa?
Lazy Lisa probably knows how to do it, and she just wants me to do it for her because she's lazy.
Right. And Cunning Cate is different. Cunning Cate, she's cunning. She's very smart. She realizes that if I can get somebody else to do some of my work, that frees me up to either go home early or to go do something else that I'd rather be spending my time on.
Because I'm not lazy, and I have a ton of things that I could be doing.
That's right. So Cunning Cate's a little bit different. She's capable of doing it, doesn't really need the help, but she realizes that if she can get you to do it, she can spend her time doing something else.
Right. She's manipulative.
Okay, so what's the line between manipulation and influence? That's something that we want to get into, though, because Cunning Cate, okay, there are silver lining to each of these. Why don't we start this way? You tell me what you dislike about these 3, and I'm going to tell you why they're great.
They are time sucks for me, and they are constantly... I've got other things I need to be doing. And if you are in my office asking me to help you with your stuff and it's not my job, then it just wears me out. Because I don't want to come across as the rude person saying no all the time. But I've got plenty on my plate. I don't need to do this for you.
But let's start with Hannah. So this is maybe the silver lining or my take on each of these. And then I'll talk about why I feel like why I'm bringing this angle and why I think other people should do the same thing. First, Help Me Hannah. Okay, she's probably brand new. She hasn't been here long, or she's maybe new to the role. Okay, which there's probably a certain grace period that's there, but she's new. But she could be the next superstar. She could be the next huge influencer in your organization. She could be your new boss one day, right? So she could be, like, as she's learning, she could take off, and you're going to wind up wishing you had helped her and maintained a good relationship with her. And then maybe the bigger thing or bigger motivator to me is she could go on to great things and look back and tell other people that she achieved great things because of you, because of the help that you provided, right?
But if we're playing good cop, bad cop here, I'm looking at this and going, okay, but I know that the stuff that I'm doing is important, and your longevity may not be there.
Yeah, that's why.
So it is hard to invest in the new kid.
Yeah, you still have to set some boundaries. I'm not suggesting you should just, anytime, come on in. I have nothing to do. Right? Come on, you should have. If you have that much free time, something else is going on, right?
Exactly
you have a day job, right? So you don't have that much time. So you need to structure it so that you are helping Hannah, but you need to help Hannah in a certain regulated fashion, and I'll get to that in a second. Let's talk a little bit about Lazy Lisa. So Lazy Lisa has an apathy problem in most cases. Okay, there could be all kinds of reasons somebody's lazy. But something went wrong, and somewhere along the lines, Lisa stopped caring, or she got apathetic about something, and she just is not motivated to go do things. And so anything she can get somebody else to do works for her, because then she can sit and do nothing, right? More than likely, Lazy Lisa's not in your office. She's sending you emails, because coming to your office is too much work, right? So she's going to try to do as little as possible. I think there's a lot of positive, because Lazy Lisa, what if she started caring? What if we figured out what the motivational challenge was and the apathy was removed? You also could have a superstar. I have personally seen Lazy Lisa turn into a superstar in my career because of a motivational challenge. In some cases, something is going on outside of work that causes problems. But the laziest folks are often the most innovative. The people who are the laziest wind up being the most innovative because they go, I don't ever want to do this. What can I do to avoid doing it ever again? And they come up with very creative, unique solutions to make sure that they never have to deal with it again. Some of the smartest people are just really bored.
Right. And from the bad cop perspective, it's difficult to look at Lazy Lisa and not think, why are you here and who hired you and how did you get to this position?
Absolutely.
Where you are on the same pay level as I am or above my pay grade and asking me for help. It's just frustrating.
But what if I could paint a picture for you of Lazy Lisa, who has this incredible capability, but there's something going on, maybe away from work, or there's something that's going on maybe with her boss or something that is causing her to be that way. And when you see that perspective, all of a sudden you might be like, I understand. And then she changes roles, or she moves into something changes, or her home life changes, and all of a sudden that problem is gone. All of a sudden she's a rock star again. But
that requires you to see the person as a person and not just a fellow employee.
Absolutely. That's the key. That's the key. You have to recognize that these people are all complex beings. They are not, employee 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They have personal lives and things outside of work and all the other things that go with it that can cause some of these. And when you can see that person in that way, it changes how you view them. Because, hey, here's the secret to this whole series. You're also the problem. You are currently a bad coworker and have been a bad coworker and will in the future also be a bad coworker, because we're all guilty of this because we're human. All of these cases and examples of people that we're talking about, I've also exhibited these in some way. People are probably listening out there going, how can this guy be talking about Lazy Lisa? That guy is Lazy Lisa. And I'm sure I have been that at times, right? So we're all guilty of these things at times. So when you can see that person as a human, now that doesn't mean to say you should just lay down and do whatever Lazy Lisa talks to or asks you to do. We need to come back to that in a second. But before we go there, let's talk about the most intriguing person in this triplet series here, which is Cunning Cate. So clearly, this is the one that's going to be more frustrating to people.
Absolutely. She'll make you feel used.
Because you feel used. You feel manipulated.
Yeah.
It's one thing if I'm trying to help you and you're new. It's another thing if I see you're lazy, I just don't care and I move on. But if you've duped me into doing something for you and I realize you knew better, oh man, that's a whole nother level of frustration that I'm going to be feeling for that particular individual, right?
And it's so difficult to tell whether the person really doesn't get it or is lazy or totally gets it and is just screwing you over.
So here's my spin on Cunning Cate. Cunning Cate is in the process of learning potentially to be an amazing leader. One of the really awesome things we talked about a second ago is, I discussed earlier, is the line between manipulation and influence. Cunning Cate oftentimes struggles with transparency. Oftentimes she struggles with how to be clear about what her agenda is. And when you're asking me to do something, and I can tell you have an agenda, and I can tell you're not being transparent, my cynicism alarms are going off, right? And so she struggles with how to go get you to do something. Now, at the same time, being able to manage outside your authority is a very, very, very powerful and effective weapon and a skill set. It's really a tool in your toolbox for a leader. You need to learn to do this. There are jobs that they do nothing but this. Project management and program management are usually just that, manage outside of authority. They don't have any particular reports. There's no management structure there. They're managing the project. They have multiple different resources, and their job is to get all these resources available to them, but they don't directly report. So they have to get these people to do things that they need them to do without any kind of authority. Cunning Cate's trying to learn how to do that. But if you come in and you're not transparent, then people's cynicism alarms go off.
Right. You sound like a used car salesman.
You sound like a used car salesman.
Right. But they are also great entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and she may not see that she has an agenda at all.
Right.
In many cases, they don't. They don't recognize that they have an agenda. It's almost like an unconscious bias. It's this unconscious agenda that's there that they don't even see. And you think about it. Why is a person not transparent? When somebody's not transparent, we will think that the worst case. We will think, oh, they have some ulterior agenda that is not in my best interest. Maybe, but maybe not. Okay, entertain this idea with me for just a second. What if she was had all kind of things outside of work as a child that there was abuse, maybe there's really bad relationships that she had been in the past? Those are the kinds of things that if you had been transparent in the past and suffered from it, you don't want to be transparent with people anymore. And you're more guarded and you're protected, right? And some people's personalities are just that way, that they're just not naturally transparent and they don't do that. So if you can see from that perspective, it's possible that that's the situation that she's in, then you go, okay, this person's human, like everybody else.
Right, but it's complicated if you're trying to see everybody from the perspective of, okay, they're a bruised human. They have a past that has hurt them. I have a past that's hurt me. I get it. But I can also end up rolling over and giving them too much time and, okay, let me feel sorry for you. I will be your mother. I will nurse you. And that's not healthy either.
I've come across as a big softy, just getting abused by Lazy Lisa, Help Me Hannah, and Cunning Cate. Let me come back to the other side and play more in the middle and talk about how I would recommend that you approach these cases.
Okay.
So how do you respond to the triplets here, right? Let me talk about training. Because to me, the answer to this is how I approach training with someone. And this would be the 1, 2, 3s that I'll give you for training. Step one, if I'm training you at something, it's going to be, I'm going to do something and you're going to watch and observe. Okay?
Okay.
Step two, and I use this work, home, all kinds of places. I use the same model, right? And I'm stealing this from someone. This is not my original content, but I can't recall where I got it from. So step one, I'm going to do it and you're going to watch. Step two, you're going to do it and I'm going to observe. And I'm going to watch, and I'm going to help and be like, you're close, but slightly here, there. Okay. Step three, you do it, and I'm not involved.
How do you know whether someone actually got it after watching you the first time? Some people need more than one.
Yeah. If I have to go through maybe twice, sometimes, right, there'll be a feedback, but like you just know, you watch someone, if I'm in step two watching you, and okay, great story. Here's an example of me abusing this system. That may be the better way to explain it.
Okay.
When we had kids and we're in a hospital with kid number 3. Okay. I got a little bit of experience with diaper changing by then, but I don't let the nurses know because they come in and they tell you, do you like some help with the diaper? Yeah, I've never done this before. And I would do it to every nurse, every other shift to get them to change the diapers so that I didn't have to mess with it.
Cunning Cate.
That's me being a little bit of Cunning Cate. Now, I did it kind of jokingly, haha. But yeah, that's like an example of where I've done that in the past. So you can tell. Now, I think it was like the second nurse. It was like, nah, I don't believe you. I don't believe something triggered. You can tell, like, okay, and you know, if you need to go through this 1, 2, 3 step twice, maybe that's fine too. After that, okay, come on, what's going on? Then I'm going to need to start asking, clarifying questions. I want to ask clarifying questions when the person's coming back and they've asked for help with something. I've walked them through it. I've watched them do it, so I know they're capable. There are cases, especially with complex solutions or complex processes.
Right.
If there's 15, 20, 100 steps, there could be things that people have forgotten, or it's like, okay, so I'll ask clarifying questions to understand where the roadblock really is and what's going on. What is the real issue? And you can ask clarifying questions until you can get to the bottom of it. And then, okay, the last straw. There will be cases where I can tell that this is where I've weeded out the first two. And now I'm dealing with Cunning Cate, or somebody's really manipulating. And I have seen that in my 20 years. I've observed that from time to time. And as a last straw, please don't go out and practice this until you absolutely are sure that you have to do this. But as a last straw, that's when I might come with something either direct aggressive, or I might be a little more passive aggressive, and maybe hint that, so you need some basic 101 training again. Where in your education was this missed? Ha 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 ha. I will send a more clear note that my expectation is that you're capable of doing this. I've done it in a way. So, for example, there's basic building block capabilities that we have to have in my workplace. And so, for example, you need to be able to write an email. You need to be able to use basic spreadsheets and do things like this. We expect you to have some basic skill set there. You don't? You need me to go help you with it once? Cool. I'm going to show you how to use Excel or whatever the building block capability is, right? Because I would want someone to do that for me as well. You come back 2 or 3 times and I'm recognizing that, okay, then I might come back and say, hey, I'm not an Excel specialist. That's not what I do. Then that's me brushing you off the plate a little bit to say, back up, bud. You need to go take care of your own business. That should be the last straw, though. In general, though, what I want people to take away is we all are human. These people are human as well. There's reasons they're behaving the way that they are. The more you can connect with that human piece, the more you're going to realize, I'm probably guilty of these types of things too. But in any case, the way I respond to them is the same way. With all 3, I'm responding the same way, which is, and maybe one more piece of advice I give is, I won't ever take control of the mouse outside of step 1. I'll show them step 1, or whatever the case is, whether it's the drill press and I'm trying to show my son how to use the drill press, or I'm trying to show bike tires, really good example. I'm trying to show my kid how to change a bike tire. I'm going to go through and I'm going to do it the first time, and then I'm going to watch you do it. Now I know you know how to do it. Now it's your responsibility to go do it. I'm not doing it again. That's some Cunning Cate behavior. I expect you to go do it from here. Now I can come observe you. We can go back to step 2 if we need to, and I can watch and give you some course correction if it's required. But in general, I'm not going to go do any more than that.
Now, have you had times that you have thought that you were dealing with Cunning Cate, only to find out that you were dealing with either Lazy Lisa or Help Me Hannah?
Yeah, you know, and a lot of times, sure, because there's cases where which one of these is which sometimes depends on the level of experience that they have. And sometimes I'll think, this person's been here for a while. And then I realize, they've only been here 2 years. Okay, this is Help Me Hannah, right?
So do you start with...
Or I've gone the other way. I assume it's Help Me Hannah. That's my default. I default to truth.
Has it always been that way?
I default to truth, and I default that people are good in general, because it's the alternative is chaos to me.
You talked a little bit about manipulation versus influence. I'm curious, how do you see the difference?
Yeah, it's interesting because I value influence so much. Like people who are influential in my life, I really value that, right? But I've also experienced enough manipulation with people that you're like, sometimes there's a fine line. And to me, the line is the person's, what their agenda is for me. What do they have my best interest in mind? And it's really difficult to tell that. But I can know for myself, when I'm trying to get somebody, or I start to get somebody to do something that I need them to do, and it may not be in their best interest, that's manipulation to me. If I'm trying to get them to do something and it's beneficial for both of us, okay, that's influence. That's how I think of it anyway. Used car salesman doesn't care about your finance. There's a used car salesman out there listening to me saying, I do care about people's finances. In general, for the most part, they don't care about your finances. They're looking to sell you the car, right? So that's the line for me, is when I can stop and think about, do I really care about this person's interest? That's how I draw the line between those two. Okay, Jamie, talk to me about Chatty Chad or Coffee Carl. Who are these people?
Again, I think that these guys come up in two different types of ways. One of them is just an outright time drain, and one of them is actually kind of fun. They're relating to you in some way. The time drain one is the one who is talking to you about things you don't care about, talking to you about politics, or trying to sell you their kids' school fundraiser, whatever. And you just want them out of your office. The fun one is relating to you about something that you actually like. Maybe they're coming to talk to you about some coffee they just drank, or a new trail they just found, or whatever, and you want to hang out with that person. But when you're on a deadline, both of them need to get out of your office.
Yeah, and I think how you respond to them is the same, but there is a difference between them, right? One of them is harder to get them out of your office because you actually want to talk about whatever they're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And the other one is tough because you don't want any part of it. And you're fighting off the urge to say, nobody cares about that, and I need you to leave. So you don't want to say that. That's, again, take a little more professional approach will go a long way because this person may be very valuable for you in the future, so why burn bridges?
And you have to be real honest with a person, right? If they're trying to talk to you about something you really don't care about, you can't say, let's talk about it later, because they're going to come back and talk to you later.
Right.
But if it's something that you legitimately want to, then maybe set an appointment for later.
So let me give you the silver lining for me about this one you kind of hit on already, which is these are often my favorite people. Like, my favorite people to hang out with are the ones that are going to usually come by to get coffee, to chat, just to catch up. These are the reason why I stay at a company, because they make work enjoyable, because it's the camaraderie and the connection with people especially really smart people. That's a lot of fun. I really enjoy that part of the job, right? So I want to be careful about how I approach it. At the same time, I have things to do. Right. And so it really depends on timing in terms of so when we get into how I respond, it will be depending on the current situation. And I'll give some examples of that.
Now, I think that for us, we have experienced more of this Chatty Chad since you've been working from home, because we are each other's Chatty Chad.
Yeah, for sure.
And if I don't have anything going on, I want to come hang out with you, because you're kind of a big deal.
I am a big deal. You're a big deal too. It's a really good example though, because more than likely what you're dealing with is two people or somebody who need breaks. They just don't happen to be able to take a break at the same time.
Right.
Which is one of the examples you gave in terms of this is the person you actually want to hang out with. It's just a timing challenge. And so how I respond will depend on those two situations. Slightly. In general, I'm going to take a couple of similar approaches both ways. These are, I'll give you one kind of humorous one first. This is one of my favorite. I asked this question years ago because when I first started in the company I'm in, I struggled with this tremendously because I'm a pretty approachable person. I make friends pretty easily. I adapt like that. So I'd have people in my office and I would eventually have things to do and I'd be trying to figure it out. And I think I'd actually posted on Facebook one time, like, how do you guys recommend I get somebody out of my office if they won't leave? And my favorite answer came from a really good friend of mine, Jason, who said, oh, it's easy. You just say, good day, sir. And when they keep talking, say, I said good day, sir. Don't do that. But I think about it every time somebody's in my office now and I want them to leave. I think I can hear Jason saying that. I don't do that now, but it's funny at least.
What have you done to get people out of your office to give them the hint?
Let me get to the actual meat, the real beneficial stuff. Well, one thing that I'll do is I'll just head to the bathroom.
Anybody ever follow you to the bathroom?
Yeah. I'll get up and start walking out and be like, all right, I'm going to run and head to the bathroom. And I've had them follow me. And I have had one case where somebody followed me into the bathroom.
Oh, my goodness. It's a little awkward.
It's a little awkward. It's a little odd. And they kept talking. And I just continued the conversation. And then I walked and went somewhere else and got coffee and just ran from the person. I guess. I don't remember what I did, but I was able to chase them off.
Well, and you are unlike any other person I've ever met in that you can connect with any other human being.
Try to.
You can find something you have in common with anyone. So I imagine that you have Chatty Chads that are even worse than me in your life.
Well, sometimes just making a trip to get coffee can be tricky because because you get stopped 5 times in the hallway, right? So you have to get skilled at this. My days get full, at least, working from home right now, but my days get full pretty quickly to where I've got a nonstop meeting and I can't stop and talk with Chatty Chad or Coffee Carl. I've got things to do. And so in those cases, I'll have a couple of approaches. If it's somebody that I legitimately want to talk to, or I'm thinking, if I want to have this conversation later, I'll let them know. I may do it in a certain way to be like, hey, I want to have this conversation. I've got a deadline, or I'm running to a meeting, or I've got something I'm trying to get to. I want to talk about this. And I also want to tell you about this 6-pound bass I just caught, or whatever, some specific, that's a true story. This morning, just caught that one. But I'll do something like that just to let them know, hey, I do want to come back and talk to you. If it's somebody that I don't, obviously I'm not going to say that. You need to be authentic, right?
Right.
And just tell them, hey, I got to run. I apologize, but I got to go.
Right. And you and I we'll say, I can't talk right now. I'm in the middle of a meeting, but I'm available at 3:00.
Yeah, right. Or let's schedule some time. Right. I'll do that. Hey, let's schedule some time. I'm right in the middle of something right now, but let's block some time off and let's discuss this. We'll depend on what the topic is, right, and what they're trying to. Another trick that I'll use with somebody. These are even people I really like. Let's say they're in my office and they're talking about something that I don't maybe necessarily care about, and I'm in the middle of something important. I'll recruit them into my problem. We do this with the kids too, but
all the time, yeah.
I'll pull my screen around and say, hey, while you're here, give me your inputs on blah, 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 and I'll ask them some questions. It turns into work. Sometimes they just leave. They're just done. And if they don't and they stick around, I'm now recruiting them to help solve my problem.
I now have a coworker.
That's right. Now I got a partner.
You're hired.
Yeah, so I'm going to pull them in and have them help partner with the problem. So at least, hey, if you're going to take my time, let's use it in a beneficial way so I get some value out of it, right?
Now, with so many people working from home right now, does Chatty Chad... Is he still on text? Is he interrupting the day? Or is it's just a matter of convenience, isn't it? I see you and I want to talk.
It's actually my fear that we've lost this through the working from home piece, that we don't have it. Like, I think, and I'm hoping that people out there listening will realize, you know what? I miss Chatty Chad. I miss Coffee Carl, because I do. I miss the people that I hang out with, and I look forward to getting back to where I can hang out with these folks and just to share life with them. It's what makes the job enjoyable to me.
And there are so many important conversations that happen in the hallway over a cup of coffee opposed to being scheduled.
Absolutely. Drive-bys and just like swing-bys. And there's a lot of things that you can do to pre-align meetings and conversations this way. Like if I've got a meeting coming up and I don't know for sure how a person's going to react to a certain topic, oh man, you should never be surprised in that meeting. Go talk to that person in advance, right? And you can become Chatty Chad, right? Each of these characters or these archetypes that we're talking about are really examples sometimes that you may need to deploy or employ. You may need to use these as a tool in your toolbox to go connect with people in some way.
Right. And the important thing with dealing with Chatty Chad to me is figuring out which one they are first. Are they the time drain that are just wasting your time? Or are they the ones that are fun or useful in some way?
Yeah.
One is oxygen choices, right? And the other one is I can chat with you later.
Yep. Make oxygen choices every day.
Throughout the episode, you have alluded over and over again to structuring your time. Are you talking about like block schedule? What are you talking about?
Yeah, sort of. We're talking about people who are time drains that are consuming a lot of your time. And one thing that you can do is to say, hey, rather than the consistent drive-bys, if you want to put a stop to that and get this person out of your office, and especially if it's like a help me Hannah, and I want to help, but I can't help like as many hours as she's coming by. Hey, can we meet, maybe 9 a.m. on Mondays and start the week off that way? So I have other things that I need to get done, but I definitely want value. I want to help you. But if we can do it in that block of time, it's just more efficient for me.
So basically like scheduling a meeting with them.
Schedule a proper meeting. If it's turning into consistent disruptions, I also do this with my teams when I have someone who's assigned a mentor. I tell people that to go to their mentor until they agitate them, because they need to be asking lots of questions and they should be kind of a little bit of an adjutant. But if it does hit a point, I also tell the person that's doing the mentoring, if they get to a point where that agitation is too much, block off. Start with like Tuesday, Thursdays and give them an hour and work your way back from that. All right, let's talk about our next in the series that which is Loud Larry or Loud Louise or Loud Louis or Speakerphone Steve. We've seen lots of different varieties of that.
Right, all the same person.
But they're all really the same person. And most folks in a corporate environment, especially if you're in an office cubicle environment, you're going to deal with this kind of scenario. So this is a real practical type of thing. We have a great story that we're going to bring in from a good friend of mine, Wesley Hirsch. We're going to have him come in and share here in just a minute. But let's talk before we get to that. What do you not like about Loud Larry, Loud Louis, Loud Louise, Speakerphone Steve?
Well, I think that there are really two different kinds of Loud Larry. You've got the ones that are talking so much that you just can't think, and maybe they have an annoying voice or their voice carries. And I think about corporate accounts payable. Nina speaking. Just a moment.
Great example.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. And you just hear that. I mean, I watched that movie once and I am dreaming that voice
and
that night.
You never get that out of your head.
Corporate accounts payable. Nina speaking.
If
just
you've
a moment.
never heard what she's talking about, go watch Office Space or don't. Or I recommend it's one of my favorites, but it does have some language in it. So if you're offended by that, that's not. Don't blame me if you watched it. But it is a great example of corporate life.
And some voices just
in a worst case
carry. Voices. But then there's also the Loud Larry that is just super charismatic, right? Yeah. This is the one that if you are at a party, they're the center of attention. They are bringing a karaoke machine. They just have to be looked at all the time, and as loud as they need to be the center of attention.
Right. And some people, their voice just carries. It's just the nature of, like, I can hear my kid through the wall because his voice is deep.
Right.
And he's not being that loud.
Corporate accounts payable. Nina speaking. Just a moment.
In that particular example, right? Is it her job or is it her fault that that's annoying, or does that job ridiculous? That job is ridiculous. If I had a company and I had to have a person that was, first of all, who says that all the time? What? Somebody's got to answer the stinking phone. You can't just say that to everybody, put everybody on hold. That makes no sense. And that's not necessarily her fault. It could be just the way the organization's structured or the way the team is built.
I mean, as much as I hate being answered by a computer, I mean, if that's the alternative.
Now, most companies today have a place where you can go have a conversation.
Right.
Or use your headset. You don't have to have things on speakerphone. So there's all kinds of, again, there could be different reasons why somebody behaves that way. But let me give you a little bit of the silver lining of why Loud Larry, Speakerphone Steve. I'm reaching here, but because these are me. I feel guilty about this one because I have been calibrated on this. I have had people come and tell me, and I'll talk about that after Wes's story, and we'll come back and discuss it. But let me give you some of the silver lining pieces or some of the positives and the reason why Larry is human and you should not dehumanize, and you need to at least try to relate to him. So sometimes some people that's just the way their voices carry. That's just how they are.
Right.
These folks are often very charismatic. They often are. Not always, but they're often very, like you said, they're life of the party type of people. Those people can often be very, very strong communicators. Strong communicators are very valuable to your team. Very valuable for you to know. If you're a weak communicator, there's somebody here you can learn from. That'd be a positive in that regard, right? What's
fascinating to me is you and I have very much switched spots on this. I used to be the center, the talkative one, that person. And now if we are together in a place, people are looking for you because you are the storyteller, right? I am now the introvert and you are the extrovert. So it's interesting how people can actually flip the switch and become the other.
Yeah, I don't know how it happens. It just does over time. Is it called the Myers-Briggs Test that gives you the introvert, extrovert, sense and feeling, all this ISFP stuff. And if you should definitely go look into Myers-Briggs Test and go Google that. It's very fascinating, interesting stuff. If you've never taken it, you should. But we've taken the Myers-Briggs, 5-6 times in our lives.
And it changes every time for me.
Mine, yeah. And it's funny. I've been introvert on the Myers-Briggs test most of my life. And then maybe 5-6 years ago, I took a course at like a training class through work. And Myers-Briggs was included in the course. And I was like, I don't need to take this. I already know the answer. But I went ahead and went through it. And I came up kind of in the middle, right? Which people listen will be like, what? That's not you. What was really fascinating in that class is they had us lined up and people placed the room voted on where the person would be. Everybody listed me as the most extreme extrovert in the room.
Yeah.
I've been an introvert all my life. The idea now, maybe it's just working with engineers, right? And the old joke about, the extroverted engineer is the one that looks at your shoes instead of his own. Is maybe that's true. It's just a function. Maybe it's relative to the people that are around you, but we definitely have changed over the years.
Right, because I was an extrovert the most of my life. I think what changed me was probably having kids. And the more I was home with them and trying to protect them, the more I went into my own shell and then have become more of an introvert since then.
And I think mine, just over time, you gain confidence and you speak up a little bit more, right? Especially if I see something broke, it's hard for me to sit quiet and say nothing.
Right.
Right. Now, let's talk a little bit about, let's hear from someone else and hear an example. And so I've asked, got on the phone with a good friend of mine, Wesley Hirsch, and this guy's got lots of experience working with all kinds of people. And he had a really great story that's about Loud Larry or Loud Lewis. And let's hear from him.
The one horrible person that I resonate with on your list is, the Loud Lewis, right? Because it was more than just, a coworker. It was somebody that was pretty highly ranked in the organization. And, he had a tendency it was funny. He took every conference call on a loud phone, on a speakerphone, right? And it wasn't like we were in closed environments with doors, man. We were in, Herman Miller, type settings. And even the high walls back then didn't go all the way to the roof, right?
Herman Miller, for people who don't know, are these really thin the cubicles, the traditional office cubicle, right?
Very traditional in the sense that even the managers didn't have closed door walls, right? They were halfway up, and they had a door, but you could climb over it if you really wanted to get in the guy's office.
Yeah, almost zero privacy.
Yeah, zero privacy. And as as a young person and you're in this weird environment that you transition from college now into a working environment, you're the new person on the totem pole, right? You have no seniority. Couldn't your voice even be heard when it's all said and done? So, when you have that situation where, how do you go approach that individual, right? You're sitting there and you're just going, what do I do? People are cracking jokes about it, right, at lunch. So,
what kind of phone calls are we talking about, Wes?
I mean, it was, working in a semiconductor industry, right? I mean, they were problem solving type environments. Hey, we have this, sure. We're looking at this data. And, it would be, you would know exactly what project and what problem he was working on at any given time. Right?
Whether you wanted to or not.
That he was sharing it with the world, right?
Yeah.
And it was not until the point that, I laugh at this, but, he had to take a personal call. And there, it's not, right? I mean, there's probably 50 people in the given area that could overhear the conversation, and it's this doctor calling and giving him a kind of a progress report on a personal I wouldn't say injury, but something you would probably want to keep on the down low.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, your hemorrhoids are flaring again, kind of thing. And we're gonna give you some, what is it?
Special prescription.
Yeah, a special one because the over-the-counter stuff's just not
touching it.
Not coming down the burning sensation, right? So it wasn't until that, that I just walked in the guy's office and I said, come on, man. I mean, it's one thing having a conference call and us all knowing about what problems you're trying to solve, but when it comes to personal stuff, you probably want to keep that personal. And of course, I have to say it, Brent. I mean, it helped, but it didn't stop. Right?
It didn't stop. Yeah.
One of the technicians just walked in his office and pretty much told him, if you take another call like that, I'm going to personally come rip your phone out of your office and make you go to another area.
Not how we would advise to deal with the situation, but a fantastic example of what could potentially go wrong, or the wrong way to go.
Wrong way to do it, right?
I love that story. So how do we respond to loud Larrys? How do we respond to these cases? So let me share. I'm going to use a movie analogy for this, which I think applies to all these kinds of scenarios, really, when it comes to dealing with difficult people. And one of my favorite movies is called The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. And our kids like this too. It's a good family show we watch together. And the movie's really about living a good story. But there's one scene where Ben Stiller is hiking and climbing up this mountain, and he gets a call from Patton Oswalt, this guy that works at like an eHarmony, like a dating match service type of thing. And as he's hiking up, he's answers the phone, like up here in the Himalayas or wherever he is up in the mountains. And he makes a statement that I really loved. He said, I'm going to keep this short because I need to make oxygen choices. He's having to decide how to use his breath because there's not a lot of air up there. I'm going to encourage you and get you to think about, you need to make oxygen choices when it comes to dealing with difficult people as well. Another way people will talk about it is they'll say, what hill do you want to die on? What I mean by this is to say, you can go attack everybody's problems in your life, or you can decide which ones are really critical that you need to mess with. Not everybody's problem needs to become your problem. It's not always going to be the case that you need to resolve everybody's issue. So is this guy, he's loud, but is that really making an impact on your work?
Right. And some people want their problem to become your problem so that they have someone else carrying the burden for them.
That's a good point.
Or with them.
Right. Or to justify it in some way, right?
Right.
So is it impacting my work? It would be a question that I would ask when we're getting into, okay, how do we respond to Loud Larry? If it's affecting my work, okay, I might have to address this. And I'm not saying you should just roll over and just take behavior problems from horrible coworkers, but you do need to make oxygen choices. You need to decide where are you going to spend your energy. Every day you're having to decide where you're going to be spending your energy and how you're going to spend your time. And so if this is starting to affect my work and impact my team or people around me, all right, I might need to go address and do something then. Then the next key point I would say is you need to, and this is also a consistent theme through all of the series, is establish a relationship with the individual. And now if you have a relationship with the person already, that makes it way better. And the reason I say that is I'll steal one of John Maxwell's quotes again that I've used before, which is, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. If I've established a relationship with you and you realize that I actually do care about your well-being, it's a little easier for me to speak into your life and talk about, hey, you mind keeping it down? Like, everybody else trying to work and your hemorrhoid story is kind of distracting.
Right.
That's an easier story to deliver as opposed to Joe Schmo walks in, you've never seen them before. I'll give a really good example I hadn't thought about until we were talking about. I used to work on equipment where it was pretty noisy. So I would put headphones in to cover that noise and listen to music. Well, I tend to hum and whistle if I'm listening to music or sing along or something. And I had another engineer could hear me, and rather than come over and being like, hey, I can hear you. You mind just keeping it down? He didn't. He came over and he goes, is that you whistling? And then he had this perturbed look on his face like, good grief, man. People are working here. And I was like, whoa, that is not a proportional response. A little more humility would go a long way.
Right.
So having some relationship or just not being such a jerk about it will go a long way if you do need to confront the person. And then if you do need to confront the person or you get to a point you go, okay, this is really worth my time. It's worth me saying something, coming in and addressing them with humility and saying, hey, would you mind? Like, I can hear, and coming at it from that approach. I've yet to find somebody who doesn't respond at least at least stop or think about it, right? Or process that.
Right. And I think that the approach that you take is probably incredibly important, because if you come at it like, I need to fix you, You are a problem for everyone here, and I am better than you are, and I'm going to show you how to fix it so you can be more like me and less annoying. That is not the way you approach this, ever.
And if you think about it, as we go through the series, the goal is really of the series is for you to realize that you're also these people.
Right.
And when you realize that about yourself, when you come to your own self-awareness and you go, oh man, that's me. Doesn't that sting? Doesn't that hurt? Aren't you ashamed? I've been told this before. I have had customers sitting outside my office while I had the door closed talking to somebody. And then I was very fortunate to have a coworker and friend come by and say and he closed the door behind him. He goes, hey, everybody can hear you. Just a little quieter. And then that's the day I realized, oh, I'm Loud Larry. I am the loud guy in the office. I have to. So then I'm way more conscious of it today.
But how do you get over that initial shame?
Oh man, I was very happy. It was easy because he was so he
was nice about it.
He was approached it with humility, right? It takes time. It's just like getting a shot. Like we've talked. Anytime you get feedback, you just take some time for you. Like going to the doctor and getting a shot. This is good for me. You have to calm your breath, slow down. You feel that adrenaline kick in. You feel that like, oh man, I just got negative feedback. Slow your breath, calm down, remind yourself it's gonna be all right.
Now, do you treat the two different kinds of Loud Larry the same way? The one that either is just so loud that you can't think, or the one that's just very charismatic? Are they treated, talked to, corrected in the same way?
Yeah, I think it. I don't think I'd take a different approach to it. I think I'd bring it the same way. Now, depending on their reaction to it,
right?
Someone's reaction to feedback is always interesting, right? Because you'll tell people that, and they can be really defensive. In which case, I'll be like, okay, all right. 90% of your job is already done. You've let them know that, hey, this is a problem, and other people see this. Once they recognize that, they can react in all kinds of ways, right? However they react in front of you, I guarantee you the wheels are turning. They're thinking in their mind, and it may take them 24 hours to process, and then they may be like, yeah, all right, that person was right, and I shouldn't have behaved that way, and I need to adjust my behavior.
Right. And one of the things that I have learned about relationships in general is it's my job to communicate my end of it. It's not my job how they receive it. Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of this is a lot of dealing with horrible coworkers is you controlling your own emotions and your reactions to things. Right.
Jamie, this was a fun episode to record.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, anytime we can get some good stories like Wes's, in there, it's good. I've heard lots of great stories from people. Almost zero of them are appropriate. Bad coworkers do some inappropriate things.
That's true.
That's great. Reach out to me. I like to hear those. They're quite funny and entertaining. I can't share them all here. But if you do have a good one, reach out to me. I'd be glad to hear it, and maybe we could use it. Fun series. This is going to be a lot of fun. We have many more bad coworkers to discuss. Hope you guys enjoyed the first part of this. Have a great week.